the defending champion, the all-new Yamaha YZ450F.
What's up guys, Trevor Hunter here at Dirt Bike Test. We got Tyler Belknap, and we just spent a day riding this 2024 KTM 450 XCW here at Cahuilla Creek MX. Kind of stayed away from the motocross tracks for the main part, hit the vet track for a couple laps, but we mainly stuck to the off-road trails, a lot of single track, 2-track roads, some whoops, some small chops, square edges. Kind of a good feel for how this bike would perform in a lot of conditions. I know KTM does a lot of their off-road testing here as well, so probably riding a lot of the same trails and kind of feeling what they're feeling as they're developing this bike. But this bike is all new for 2024. It's got the new chassis, new bodywork, new suspension, new motor, basically brand new from the ground up. I think the wheels and maybe some handlebars are about the only thing that comes that kind of transfers over from 2023 to 2024. But so kind of skipping all the changes. Basically everything is all changed and all new. I'm just going to talk about how it performed, and starting with the motor. The motor is actually quite impressive. Very smooth power delivery. Really never felt like I needed any more power, and which is actually a good thing. Being this off-road trail bike, some might think it'd be a little corked up, a little kind of tame and boring, when in reality it's just super smooth, easy to ride power.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for a 450, this bike's just really comfortable to go ride on. It's not anything like you have to get used to the 450 power or anything. It's just a smooth, broad amount of power that's just really fun to flow in the trails, and easy to just click it up a gear and just find that bottom end flow through that tight single track, or even through a little bit more faster 2-track. Like Trevor was saying, even our intermediate riders were going onto this bike and they felt comfortable, and they usually feel 450s have too much power, and I think this bike just got the power moved to where it should be for this type of riding, and it was super comfortable and fun to go ride.
Yeah, no, the power is super smooth. Definitely, unlike the KTM 450 motocrosser, this bike is not a rever. Definitely appreciates kind of the bottom to mid RPM range. The motor is super strong there, but as you rev it out, it really kind of just falls on its face, which again, it's a trail kind of enduro oriented bike. Most riders really don't ride up there, and there's trails and kind of stuff like that. It's hard to ride up there. So KTM did a really good job at kind of moving that power from the top end, where it is kind of on the motocross bike, to more of the bottom to mid range, where it's a lot more usable, a lot easier to ride, and just a lot more effective for kind of this application. The transmission felt super strong. Space in between the gears felt rock solid. Never really felt himself in between gears. Like I said, it's got enough power to where you can kind of ride a gear low if you wanted to, but mainly it's riding a gear tall, like second, third gear. A lot of the single track stuff, the bike would pull it, maybe fan the clutch a little bit if you had to, but for the most part it's spot on. Hydraulic clutch, same as always. Probably one of the better hydraulic clutches in my opinion. I'm still a cable guy, but for a hydraulic clutch, I like the Brembo system for the best, I think. And yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the transmission and stuff, like Trevor was saying, the gearing, like right off the bat, I was impressed, and I wouldn't even go and change it if I went and rode this as my everyday bike type deal. Like I would keep the gearing as it was. It was so comfortable and almost felt perfect. Like I didn't want anything more, I didn't want anything less. Like Trevor said, it did take sometimes a little bit of finger in the clutch just to give it a little bit of help, but all bikes are going to need that at certain degrees. And I'm like Trevor, I'm a little bit more of a cable clutch person, but this clutch was still really comfortable. It felt a little bit hard for me to get used to it, just where it was releasing and stuff, but once you find that release point, it's super easy to just pull in and everything.
Yeah, so overall engine package super strong, very solid engine, and really no complaints as far as our end from day one here at Cahuilla. And moving on to the suspension, this is kind of one of the biggest changes really, is KTM ditched the WP Explorer components. They've kind of, Honda and Yamaha and all these companies, they've been equipping their off-road enduro style bikes with the same components as the kind of motocross, top-line motocross and off-road race bikes, and kind of just valve it and tune it towards the specific settings that they need. but the components themselves are the same. And for 2024, KTM went that route, and the Explorer components are gone, and the new WP Exact closed cartridge spring fork and the WP Exact PDS shock is now on this bike. And overall, we're really impressed with how they worked. Personally, I'd never really rode with Explorer forks. I know Jimmy Lewis, he has tons of hours and miles on them. He's always pretty happy with them, but I can't say for myself that I've never ridden them. I will say that although I'm not a huge fan of the air forks, kind of the riding and terrain we're in today is some of the stuff where I actually did kind of appreciate the air forks and just how light they were and kind of made the bike a little more nimble and easy to maneuver. But the closed cartridge spring forks work really, really good. I really like that heavy front end feel, a little slower steering, a little more front end traction, and I kind of got that with these spring forks. Just hitting kind of the small chop, and super supple through that small chop and bumps, and you don't really feel a whole lot of feedback through the hands and arms, and just made it super comfortable overall. I would say in general, kind of front and rear are both softer, as you would expect for a trail enduro bike, especially me coming off a lot of race bikes. But I really didn't feel the need to change any clickers or do anything once we set the sag. It felt super solid. You know, as we hit bigger whoops and bigger G-outs, I would kind of blow through and wallow a little bit, but the trade-off was it works so good in the small stuff, and there's so much more, you're more often in that small stuff that I didn't really feel the need to want to change it for that bigger stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed with going away from the air forks, because like Trevor, I hadn't ridden the Explorer forks on this, so I don't have any time on those. But coming from the air forks to this, I noticed when I went through the little chop, I was kind of like clinching a little bit, because usually you feel a little bit more, and I'm just kind of preparing for it. And this bike just plowed through it like it was nothing. Like it felt so smooth and just comfortable to ride, and the bike just, the forks just felt really comfortable to turn on and everything. And I haven't ridden too much with that rear shock. This was one of my first times riding with it, so that was cool to experience and kind of feel. I'd like to kind of feel it back to back with their other shock with linkage and stuff to kind of compare and see what's better. But like Trevor said, it was a little bit on the softer side for what I'm used to, but for what this bike is and the trail riding parts, it's so good that you don't really want it to go stiffer to go handle these big whoops that aren't really out there where you're going to go take this. And it was just really comfortable to go hop on and just smooth feeling.
Yeah, so overall suspension felt really good today. No complaints there. And kind of move on to the handling as well. The bike felt super nimble and lightweight and agile, and for being a big 450, it's actually quite easy to kind of maneuver through that tight single track. There's a lot of switchbacks and S-turns and like kind of off-camber turns out here at Cahuilla Creek, and kind of they catch you, got to keep you on your toes a little bit. And overall, the bike handled them super well. Really never felt like the front end pushing much or understeer or oversteer, and just super solid and predictable, and really just a lot of fun today. So overall, very solid first impression on this KTM 450 XCW. A lot of positives to take away, really no negatives as far as our end. The bike handled everything super well, really no changes other than we set the sag and went riding. Overall, really impressed, and we're hoping to get some more time on either this bike or some of the other XCWs in the near future. But till then, stay tuned to dirtbiketest.com, and we'll see you out in the trail.
If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.